Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest actors of all time, Al Pacino! How does it feel to be Al Pacino?
Well, it feels many ways, naturally, like all of us, you know. One day you feel one way, but I feel pretty good now, let's put it that way. This is, it's a kind of a bit of a reality check, you know. You take a look at the work you've done, and it's very interesting that I'm still standing here, or sitting here, you know. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for this reception, which was astounding, great, wonderful thing. I recommend it to start the day. It's a good thing.
You're such an icon. Your movies have inspired people, have made people laugh, cry, dance. They've kind of really done the whole emotion. And when you look back at it all, how do you feel about what you've accomplished?
Well, I'm very proud of what I accomplished. I'm proud of all my movies. I don't do them unless I really think that they're good entertainment. So I'm very proud of my product, let's say. I'm very proud of my accomplishments in aviation. Yes. When I was a little boy, you know, I was 5 years old, and I watched these airplanes go over the sky, and I wanted to be an aviator. I wanted to be part of the airlines, and I had all these dreams. And, you know, you could have secret dreams, and they're always a brewing, and then you don't realize how much they can come true until the day they've come true. Besides being proud of my film career, I'm very proud of my aviation career.
So, I need to ask, not fan favorite, John Travolta favorite movie you've ever done?
I used to have favorites, you know, and the truth is, I kind of like the movie I'm working on at the moment of any given time, because that's the one I'm the most enthusiastic about. But if you had to put movies in a capsule for future generations, I would have to choose those that have given the most pleasure over the years to people.
Which is for you?
Well, it's what I observe to be true.
What do you think it is for everybody?
I think people love Grease. I think people like Pulp Fiction. And then, you know, you have to remember the kids, so you'd put Lucas Talking or Bolt in there to satisfy the little ones. Swordfish Michael, you name them. Swordfish is your particular favorite?
Yes, it is.
Urban Cowboy was, Urban Cowboy was, interestingly enough, one of my favorite to actually do. I enjoyed the process of that. Saturday Night Fever, let's face it, I wouldn't be here today without Saturday Night Fever. So you'd have to put that in the capsule as well.
None of the people would be here today if it hadn't been for you.
Thank you.
Wow. So not only is he a successful reality TV star, but he is one of the best property flippers in one of the hottest and hardest markets to flip property. That's Palm Beach, Florida. That's where Jack Welch lives, some of the biggest celebrities. It's kind of like where everybody in New York goes. So maybe give us a little bit more background. What is it that you do now?
I've been doing real estate actually for 24 years. And I started off with the smaller homes. I wrote Ice Ice Baby when I was 16 years old, and this is how I didn't end up like MC Hammer. So I went to work, and ironically, I'm the one that ended up swinging the hammer.
Schwarzenegger, the businessman, the real estate investor. A lot of people don't know that side of you and how successful you own malls, businesses, and you and I had talked off air, how visionary you've been. That's probably shaped your whole entire career because you came to Hollywood with a business mind rather than coming from an artist perspective. Can you elaborate to that? Because a lot of people here are here for business.
Well, first of all, I was very fortunate that when I went to school in Austria, the trade school, I learned how to be a salesman. And so I developed a certain skill and a nose for real estate, for instance. When I came to America, I looked around, and there was training down in Venice, and Gold's Gym was in Venice. And as I was driving through Main Street, and I saw always, you know, the drunks and the homeless and the drug addicts lying around down the street and so on, and I said to myself, you know, one day, I see this street becoming a busy business street with restaurants and shops and all this. I see it differently 10, 20 years from now. And I started buying up buildings there. And sure enough, within a few years' time, the property went up double, triple, quadruple. And I started buildings that I bought with 3 houses in the back. For $450,000, I would sell 3 years later for $2.3 million. Eventually, the show business took over, and you know, when you start making $20, $30 million a movie, no matter how well you invest on this side, I mean, this kind of money comes in such staggering amounts. So, but it was great then to have both.
There's some very good tax advantages
But
of holding real estate
absolutely.
for over
And
a
then I
year.
got involved in businesses like we started buying 747s for Singapore Air, and they then leased it back for them, for themselves, and we got all the tax write-offs on that. So I mean, there was great deals that I started making, even though again they said it is impossible, you can't do that. He says the only financial institutions invest in those kind of airplanes, 747s for Singapore Air. They don't take private investors. And I had the team flying from Singapore, and because I was a celebrity, they were willing to do that, right? So they met in my office. I told them why I'm interested in this business, that I'm seriously wanting to invest in that, and that I'm a serious player, not just some crazy actor. And after our conversations, they all agreed unanimously to let me invest in their planes, and I went in and had this great investments that really ended up being an absolute jewel from a tax write-off point of view and also from an investment point of view.
I have so many questions, but I'm going to start with one because I think I want to get the essence of this. How did Calvin Klein start? Let's start with that one. I know you've been asked that many times, but there are different versions online when I research and I ask different people, and it's like the legend, the myth, there's so many different stories. So let's hear from yourself directly. How did it start?
Well, I was very fortunate because I always knew from the time I was very young, I knew what I wanted to do. I had this gift, which was sketching and drawing. I had the option to go to fine arts schools or something that would be more commercial, where you study visual arts and graphic design, fashion design, and I opted for that. None of my family was in this business. What I did was I got as much of a foundation through universities as I could get, which I think is really important. And then I went on my first job. I got the job. And there was a person there who actually hired me. He didn't own the company, but he became my mentor for many years after I left the company and started my own business. So that's how I began. There is a funny story where when I started, I had 3 coats and 4 dresses. And I had told 2 stores in New York that I was going to make these clothes while I was still on this job, which was not I had a contract, it was dishonest, but I was making clothes that were not at all in competition with what I was designing on 7th Avenue. They promised to buy the clothes. And I took a little room in a hotel on 7th Avenue where out-of-town salesmen bring their lines to New York to show to buyers. And my room was right opposite the elevator. And we always kept the doors open. And sure enough, the elevator door opens. This man walks in because he sees my clothes on the rack. And he introduced himself, and he said, I am Donald O'Brien. From Bonwood Teller, which was a great store at that time. I will bring the buyer down. I showed him the clothes. I'll bring the buyer down tomorrow, and then the next day, you will have been discovered. And sure enough, it was the president of Bonwitz who did discover Sheen. In those days, retail stores were very different. They supported designers, young designers. They paid for the advertising. Today, that all went out the window. No one pays for the advertising except you. But that was
The game has changed. The game has changed.
everything has changed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage 50 Cent! This whole Get Rich or Die Trying movie, how much of it is accurate about your life story?
Well, about 75% of the story is accurate. Then the other parts is what they had to do to turn it into a great 2-hour film. Like, I had a great writer on that project, Terry Winters. He wrote The Sopranos. He wrote Wolf on Wall Street. He wrote a lot of successful projects out there, so it came out pretty good. Jim Sheridan, I had him from Dublin. I went and flew, got Jim Sheridan. That's right, Quincy Jones. I got Quincy Jones to do the score. They spent $36 million on the project.
And the movie did really well,
Yeah,
right?
it did.
And it paved the way for 8 Mile and a lot of those.
Well, 8 Mile paved the way for it.
Oh, so there was 8 Mile was before that.
Yeah, but it was the same production crew, the same team behind 8 Mile was the team behind Get Rich or Die Trying.
So what is the thing that you use the most, you learn the most from being like a hustler, a drug dealer, to the business world? What was a lot of people say it's really the same.
It is. There's a lot of parallels. Like the CEO in corporate America will do pretty much whatever he has to do to acquire a company that's functional, that's profitable. And the neighborhood just sees it as they can just kill you to acquire your company. So it's a little bit more black and white, straight to the point type of thing. Like, like, I really want your business. So I'm gonna kill you.
Bottle full of bug, look, my man, I got that X again to take it through. I'm in the having 6, I ain't in the